Hello friends, welcome to my YouTube channel, MT Zama's Polity and Governance. I'm MT Zama, your educator and mentor. So guys, from the thumbnail you must have come to know, you must have made out what is going to be the topic of the day. So it's very much awaited. Actually, many of the students had demanded that I should prepare an educational video about the speaker and deputy speaker because a lot of things are associated with his office. Controversies are there. You saw, for the 18th Lok Sabha, how the speaker was, finally zeroed in. That is, Om Birla, assumed the office of the speaker. As for the deputy speaker is concerned, things are still not very clear. Okay, and in the last Lok Sabha, that is 17th Lok Sabha, the post of the deputy speaker remained vacant, and this happened for the first time in India's constitutional history. So this position assumes a lot of significance. Why there is so much of fight between the ruling side and the opposition side with respect to these two positions, that is speaker and deputy speaker. Okay, and moreover you must be aware of the fact that in a parliamentary system of democracy, parliament is the pivot, right? Parliament is the central thing, and in the proper and smooth as well as effective functioning of the parliament, the role of the speaker, and in his absence or when the office of the speaker is vacant, the role of the deputy speaker becomes very crucial, right? And therefore, this topic assumes a lot of importance. So, guys, please stay back, keep watching. And if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please do the same right away. Okay? Although I often say that, on my part, this is not to garner views or likes, but to spread, awareness among the people of the country about how our political system functions, how different institutions, they function, what are the gaps, that is the expected role and the actual performed role, by various constitutional functionaries. So you should know the expected role, that is what the constitution or the law expects from various institutions of governance and what actually happens. So you should know the gap, if any, and you should also know what are those gaps and why are those gaps, and what exactly could be the way forward. How can we make improvement in our political administration system? So for these things, you need to understand, nature, function, responsibilities, composition of these important constitutional functionaries, right? So guys, today we are going to discuss this. You can see in the image, Om Birla, he is the newly elected speaker. Although formal election did not happen, but finally he was zeroed in on. His name was, finally agreed upon by both sides, the ruling side as well as by the opposition side. Okay, so here is the Prime Minister, who is also the leader of Lok Sabha. Here is the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha. Okay, and here you have Kiran Rijuji, who is the Minister of Parliamentary Affairs. Okay, so in this image, four important functionaries are there. Now, do you know what does the Constitution say about the posts of Speaker and Deputy Speaker? We have heard a lot about Speaker and Deputy Speaker, but whether we exactly know the constitutional position, what the Constitution or the law says about these things. To what extent the two institutions are independent, impartial, and objective in their functioning. Because the speaker or the deputy speaker in his absence, okay, is the referee, is like the umpire in a game of cricket, in a sport, right? Or referee. He has to not only be impartial, neutral, objective, but he or she has to be seen to be so in practice as well. He or she has to be perceived as such by not only members of the opposition, but by the people at large, okay, outside the parliament. Now, in this video, we are going to take up various aspects of the topic, and these are: how are they elected? How are they means the speaker and the deputy speaker, how are they removed? What is their term of office? What is the nature of their responsibilities? Are they truly independent as expected? Inadequacies, if any, and the need for reforms, that is, the way forward. Now, for that purpose, in order to understand the position of the speaker and deputy speaker, we need to first visit the constitution. As I said in my previous session, that you should buy the book, The Constitution of India, The Constitution of India by P.M. Bakshi, by P.M. Bakshi, universal publication, right? Universal publication, so that you can keep referring to the exact provisions of the constitution, whether these are schedules or articles, or in fact sometime we also refer to the preamble, right? So now, if you have got the book, please keep the book by your side and see what is there in article 93. For your better understanding, I have quoted the exact provision what is there in the constitution, article 93. So this is the exact provision of article 93 mentioned in the constitution. Now just go through it. The speaker and deputy speaker of the house of the people. So this is the title of the article. This is the title of the article, right? And this is the detailed provision of the article from here up to this detailed provision. Now, what is the detailed provision? It says, please mind every word of it. The house of the people, that is Lok Sabha. House of the people is Lok Sabha. Lok Sabha shall, as soon as may be, this phrase is very important, as soon as may be, jitni jaldi ho sake, choose 2 members. It talks not only about the speaker, but it also at the same breath talks about the deputy speaker as well. That the house of the people, Lok Sabha, shall, as soon as may be, choose 2 members of the house to be respectively speaker and deputy speaker thereof, and so often as the office of the speaker or deputy speaker becomes vacant, जब जब ये 2 positions vacant हो जाएं, उससे जितनी जल्दी हो सके, as soon as may be, the 2 seats must be filled in by means of election from amongst the members of the Lok Sabha, shall choose another member to be speaker or deputy speaker as the case may be. So, as the house is constituted, as soon as the house is constituted after a general election, as it happened now, that after the elections, general elections to the 18th Lok Sabha, the house has now been constituted. Now that the house is constituted, the spirit of article 93 says that 2 persons from amongst the members of the house must be chosen respectively as speaker and deputy speaker, right? And suppose the speaker resigns or is removed or whatever, or God forbid he dies, some way there is a sudden vacancy in his office, then as soon as may be, that vacancy should be filled in the same manner as it was done earlier. Okay, so speaker or deputy speaker both are to be elected from amongst the members of the Lok Sabha by them and from. Okay, so this is what article 93 says. Now, what is most important here for you to remember is this phrase, shall makes it compulsory, right? it is not mentioned may. Had it been may, then there could have been an option for the House. But it says shall. Then it says as soon as may be, after the constitution of the House, or whenever the seat becomes vacant. You know, choose two members. Okay, so this is how the constitution talks about the post of speaker and deputy speaker. Now moving further, how are the two functionaries elected? So that was the exact provision of the constitution. Now we are analyzing that provision. Now see, as mentioned in article 93, they are to be chosen by members of the Lok Sabha from amongst themselves. No outsider could be made speaker or deputy speaker. It has to be one of the members of the House. Second, but then elections for the purpose are often avoided and a political consensus is sought to be achieved among all political parties, right? Although the constitution provides for election of the speaker. However, in practice, elections are often avoided. Why? Because the speaker in any case has to be seen as neutral, right? Even deputy speaker in his place has to be seen as neutral. And to be seen as neutral, he should not necessarily come through election, because through election one could be seen as belonging to the ruling side or belonging to the opposition side, belonging to one particular political party or the other political party. But if the entire House arrives at a consensus on a particular name, then he or she would be seen to be, he or she would be perceived to be representing all shades of political opinion, and he or she would be seen to be representing the entire composition of the House, right? And therefore, elections are considered not necessary. So, efforts are made to arrive at or strike a consensus among all political parties, that is between the ruling side and the opposition side. Okay, so ever since the first Lok Sabha was constituted in 1952 till date, most often consensus has been sought to be achieved, and most of the speakers have been appointed by the House on the basis of consensus, right? But there have been occasions in the past also that elections had to be held for the purpose of choosing the speaker or deputy speaker, right? So at least on 3 occasions in the past, elections could not be avoided. Okay? So it was in 1952, that is the first Lok Sabha. Then it was in 1967, that was in the 4th Lok Sabha, and then it was in 1976, that was in the 5th Lok Sabha. Elections could not be averted, elections could not be avoided, and elections had to be held to elect a speaker. Okay, but today we have the 18th Lok Sabha, right? So out of all the 18 Lok Sabhas, only elections had to be held formally on 3 occasions. So on most occasions we have had consensus, right? Moreover, there has been a healthy tradition of giving the post of speaker to a member of the ruling side, while the deputy speaker's position is often conceded by the ruling side to the opposition benches. So now, how election could be avoided for the position of the speaker? For this purpose, a very healthy tradition has been arrived at, that by convention, the ruling side will have its own person in the position of the speaker, whereas for the deputy speaker post, it in a ruling side concedes a name suggested by the opposition side. So this way, usually what happens is that speaker comes from the ruling side, while deputy speaker comes from the opposition side, and that too, both the posts are filled in by consensus. Okay, so that's a very healthy convention. And moreover, the implication of this kind of convention is also consistent with the system of checks and balances, mutual checks and balances. Okay, so having a deputy speaker, one who was nominated by the opposition, having a speaker from the ruling side. So this way, there is, a possibility of mutual checks and balances, right? So this tradition, this convention has been, considered as a very, very healthy convention. What is the term of the office of the speaker or even deputy speaker? Generally speaking, his term of office coincides with the term of the Lok Sabha, that is 5 years, or maybe earlier. If the Lok Sabha is dissolved earlier, then the term will be truncated. It could be 3 years, 3.5 years, or 4 years, whatever. So it generally coincides with the term of the Lok Sabha, that is House, unless the speaker chooses to resign earlier, unless he is not removed by the House anytime during the term, unless he does not cease to be a member of the House, right? So if the speaker, because of some disqualifications, loses membership of the House, then the post will also become vacant. So this is the third point. And fourth point you can add here, that there could be a sudden, and there could be at the death, demise of a continuing speaker. In that case also, the term would be cut short, right? It happened sometime earlier. Now, how are they removed? Yes, they are removed, you can see here, by resolution of the Lok Sabha. By resolution of the Lok Sabha, okay? But that resolution has to be passed by a special majority, and that special majority is, here in this case, it is the effective majority. Now, what is effective majority? Effective majority is the majority of the effective strength of the House. Now, what is the effective strength of the House? Effective strength of the House is total membership of the House minus vacancies, if any. So suppose Lok Sabha has 543 total strength, that is the 543. But for some reasons, 10 seats are vacant at any given point of time. So effective strength of the Lok Sabha comes down to 535. Now, effective majority would be majority of 535. Okay, so that is called effective majority. So what is mentioned here, that the person holding such post, that is speaker or deputy speaker, may be removed from his office by resolution of the Lok Sabha passed by an effective majority, that is majority of all the then members of the House. Then members means total membership of the House minus vacancies, if any. Now, two conditions are also coupled with the main provision here. It says, provided that no resolution for the purposes shall be moved in the House unless a notice, 14 days prior notice has been served to the speaker, mentioning the intent behind the resolution, mentioning the purpose behind the resolution. Okay, so he has to be given a 14 days notice prior to passing such a kind of resolution. Second thing is that, provided further that whenever the Lok Sabha is dissolved, the speaker shall not vacate his office until immediately before the first meeting of the House of the People, that is next Lok Sabha, after the dissolution. Okay, now what does it mean? It means, suppose a speaker is removed from his office, a resolution was passed and he stands removed, but then in case the House has also been dissolved in the meantime, then he will not vacate his office, and he will not vacate his office until the constitution of the next Lok Sabha and until immediately before the next Lok Sabha holds its first meeting. Okay, so irrespective of his removal, irrespective of his disqualification from the office of the speaker, irrespective of his resignation from the office of the speaker, he will not vacate office of the speaker in case Lok Sabha is dissolved in the meantime, okay, and he will continue in his office, until immediately before the first meeting of the next Lok Sabha. So that this particular provision makes his position very special. Okay. Next aspect, another aspect of this topic is, do they need to resign from the membership of their respective political parties once elected to the House? As a speaker? Okay, no. As of now, there is no constitutional provision, there is no constitutional compulsion on him, the speaker or deputy speaker, to resign from their respective political parties, that is, membership of their respective political parties, in case they are elected to these positions. So Om Birla, for instance, he has been re-elected to the post of Speaker of Lok Sabha. Now, there is no constitutional provision that demands on him to give resignation from the membership of BJP, right? So he can continue as speaker, at the same time continuing his membership of the political party he belongs to. However, a very important provision has been made in 10th schedule of the Constitution, that despite the fact that there is no mandatory provision for him to resign from the membership of the political party, if he chooses to resign, then he or she can resign from the membership of the party without attracting disqualification under 10th schedule provisions, that is anti-defection provisions. So he will not be, he will not come under the anti-defection law as mentioned in 10th schedule of the Constitution if he voluntarily resigns from his parent political party once elected as the speaker, right? So this also makes his position quite special. And in fact, this provision was made so that he can show himself, project himself as not belonging to any political party during his term as the Speaker of the House, in order to project himself as neutral, impartial, and independent of any party obligation. Okay, so he can do so. So that is his own decision. So far, we have no examples of any speaker resigning from political party, once they assumed the office of the speaker. So far, we have no such example, right? Another aspect of this topic is, what is the nature of his responsibilities as speaker? Responsibilities as well as powers. So, a speaker is a very powerful institution. Okay. Now, how the position of the speaker is so powerful? It is because the speaker is not just a speaker. That is not just a presiding officer of the House. As a speaker, he performs a multifaceted or multi-dimensional role, right? Multi-dimensional roles he performs. Multi-dimensional role vis-a-vis the Lok Sabha as well as vis-a-vis the Parliament. What are those multifaceted roles? He functions as presiding officer of the House. Okay. He functions as the guardian of the House. He also certifies whether a bill is a money bill, right? He also presides over joint sitting of the two houses in case the president summons joint sitting of the two houses, that is Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, in order to remove a deadlock over the passage of a bill. So this is his very special power, that it is not the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, rather it is the presiding officer, that is Speaker of Lok Sabha, who will preside over a joint sitting of the House. Okay. Any financial bill must emanate from the Lok Sabha, must first be introduced in the Lok Sabha. And once a speaker, identifies a particular bill as a money bill and it certifies that bill as a money bill, then immediately the Rajya Sabha's power comes to a naught, comes to nothing, okay, almost nothing, right? So there is this very important power. And as the presiding officer of the House, he is the final interpreter of rules of business of the House. The House is conducted, the proceedings of the House, Lok Sabha, is conducted in accordance with the rules of business of the House. Now, Speaker, by virtue of his position as the presiding officer, is the final interpreter of such rules, right? Whether he has to allow a particular motion or not, whether he has to take action in accordance with a particular rule of the business of the House or not, what action he should be contemplating, these all are prerogatives of the Speaker as presiding officer. As the guardian of the House, he enjoys a very significant position. Recently, you must have seen the Home Minister asking for his संरक्षण, that हमें संरक्षण दीजिए, right? So even the most powerful person in the government, he asks for the protection from the speaker. Why? Because in the house, in relation to the functioning of the house, the speaker has to protect the rights, the status, the powers, okay, of every individual member of the parliament has got certain parliamentary privileges. And as part of their privileges, every member has certain special immunity, powers, exceptions, exemptions, rights, etc. And it is the Speaker of the House who performs his role as the guardian of the House, right? And therefore, all these varied kind of roles make his position very special and very powerful, right? Most importantly, the Constitution under Article 102 coupled with Schedule 10, that is anti-defection provision wala law, has bestowed upon the speaker some quasi-judicial powers. Now, this is very, very important point. Quasi-judicial powers, okay? With respect to decisions on petitions seeking disqualification of members of the House on ground of anti-defection provisions. Now, many of you may not be aware of 10th schedule of the Constitution. I must say that the 10th schedule of the Constitution talks about what? Anti-defection provisions. Anti-defection law. Means if a member of parliament defects his political party, he changes his political party, that is called defection. Or he indulges in anti-party activities, that is some sort of defection, okay? If he or she votes in the house contrary to what the party whip has commanded them to do, then that is called anti-party activity, and that may lead to disqualification of the member of the house, of the MP from the membership of the house. Okay, so this is anti-defection law, and this is mentioned in the 10th schedule of the Constitution. And 10th schedule of the Constitution has a reference in Article 102, Clause 2, which talks about disqualification of members of the house. Okay, right? But then this law has given very extraordinary power to the speaker, and that is of quasi-judicial nature. While disposing of such petitions for disqualification of members of the House, the speaker sits as a tribunal, as a quasi-judicial body, and he takes very important decisions. His decisions may bring down a government, continuing government. His decisions may, allow a government to sustain despite the fact that the government may have lost majority. And you might have witnessed such kind of things in various states, whether in Maharashtra or Karnataka or in many, even in Uttarakhand some time back. Okay, there are many examples where speakers have taken a very, particular type of decision with respect to qualification of a number of MLAs or MPs, and that has a lot of repercussions on the continuance of the government of the day, right? So this is an extraordinary power that has been given to him. And this also adds to the power and glamour associated with the position of the speaker, right? Thus, considering the range of responsibilities and powers, it is important that the person occupying the post of the speaker remains impartial, unbiased, neutral, and independent in his functioning, right? So such a person who holds such responsibilities and such power, range of powers, must be person who not only acts impartially, neutrally, but also is seen to be by people, he must be perceived as a very impartial, neutral, independent functionary. Now the next question emerges out of this discussion is that, is the speaker truly independent? Now, for that purpose, we need to first, look at the constitutional provisions, the provisions that, attempt to make him independent. Now, what are those constitutional provisions? Number one, security of tenure. To make the speaker independent, independent of any kind of influence, okay, he has been given a security of tenure. Now, what is that security of tenure? Means that once elected as speaker, He cannot be removed from his position, without the formal introduction of a motion, and that is a substantive motion, right? And that substantive motion, when is introduced, requires the support of at least 50 MPs. 50 MPs. So it is not, and that too, such motion has to be passed by an effective majority, as we discussed earlier in this session. What is effective majority? You can recollect that. Okay, so this is security of tenure. Another important element here is he is insulated from criticism. Now, the speaker cannot be criticized by members of parliament, okay, unless when a substantive motion for his removal has been introduced in the house, has been not only introduced but has been admitted into the house. Okay, otherwise he is immune from criticism. He cannot, his manner of actions, his manner of conduct of rules of business of the house, his decisions, his actions cannot be criticized by the members of the house. Okay, otherwise it could be a contempt of parliament, right? His work and conduct cannot be discussed and criticized by the members or the house unless a substantive motion has been taken up for the purpose. Next, there is a third point is his conduct as a speaker, as the presiding officer of the house, and what decisions he takes exercising his powers is beyond judicial scrutiny. So we cannot challenge the actions or decisions of the speaker in a court of law. No judicial review can take place normally, of the actions or decisions taken by the speaker. So he is beyond judicial scrutiny as well. But yes, you must have come across instances when his decisions and actions have been challenged before the Supreme Court. But you must know that in such cases, Supreme Court only, applies a very limited scope of judicial review. Supreme Court does not go into what decisions he has taken. In fact, the Supreme Court wants to know whether he has taken decisions, he has exercised his powers after considering all the facts relating to the matter, or he has taken the decision just arbitrarily. So that is a very limited scope of judicial review vis-a-vis the functioning of the speaker. Next important thing is he stays away from voting in a house. Now the Constitution itself demands him that he should stay away from everyday voting process. Whenever a bill is put to vote, a motion or resolution is put to vote, right, the speaker needs to stay away from the voting. He steps in for voting only when there is a tie of vote. There is an equality of votes, on a particular matter. Okay, so in order to remove the deadlock, remove the, equality of vote, tie, so he acts as a tiebreaker, okay, by casting his vote. So it says that he only has a casting vote. That is, only he will cast his vote only in case there is a tie of votes. Next important thing is his position and in the protocol. That is, in the list of precedence, he holds a very high position in the order of precedence. He is placed above cabinet ministers along the Chief Justice of India. So we have the President, the Vice President, the Prime Minister, the Chief Justice of India, and along the Chief Justice of India, it is the Speaker. So he is above cabinet ministers. Then another important element is protection against anti-defection law. As I said earlier, that even if he resigns from his political party after becoming speaker, then he will not attract the provisions of anti-defection provisions. He is immune from that. He has been insulated from such disqualifications. Now the question arises, have the speakers been truly unbiased, impartial and independent in their actual functioning? So having noted a number of such provisions mentioned in the Constitution that attempts to make him impartial, objective, neutral and independent, do we really witness in practice that speakers have been truly impartial, objective, straightforward? No. In recent years, the office of the speaker has come under severe criticism on a number of issues. In practice, speakers at the state level and now for a few decades, speakers at the central level, that is parliament also, have often been criticized to be biased not only in their interpretation of rules of the house, but also in taking actions against erring members, the members who wittingly or unwittingly violate the rules of the House. Okay, so sometime speakers have been criticized for being biased in their actions. Okay, you have three images. She is Meera Kumar. She was there in the in the 15th Lok Sabha. Then we have the Sumitra Mahajan. She was speaker in the 16th Lok Sabha. Then we have Om Birla. He was also speaker in the 17th Lok Sabha and now in 18th Lok Sabha also. Now these three speakers are criticized, and they have been criticized, on various occasions for being partial, for being not objective, for being biased in favor of the party, that they belonged to. Okay, so these are matters of fact one can verify. Now, since speakers have often been criticized for being biased, not being unbiased, therefore we need to bring about reforms or the way forward to make the institution further insulated from any kind of influences. Now, what are the important areas of reforms or important measures that we can take so that his position becomes truly independent, impartial? Now, the first problem with the existing system is that there is no express constitutional provision that demands that the speaker, once elected as speaker, should resign from the membership of the parent party. Right? There is complete absence of such constitutional obligation. And therefore, what we have seen that every successive speaker, they have continued to remain a party member while also discharging their functions as a speaker. And that has cast a shadow of doubt over their functioning, style of functioning, over their, decisions, etc. So, one important measure that we can take is that bring about constitutional amendment and make it compulsory that once elected to the post of speaker, he or she must cut the umbilical cord, cut the organic connection that he or she may have with her parent political party. So this is one. Okay. The speaker not only has to be impartial, objective, neutral, but has to be seen or perceived by the people, and especially by the people in the opposition, as such. Right? So severing the umbilical cord, that is most important step that we can take. Second is statutory time-bound decisions. That is, we can bring about rules or constitutional provisions to make sure that the speaker functions in a time-bound manner. He or she takes decisions on disqualifications, particularly or in a time-bound framework. As of now, there is complete absence of such a time-bound framework, and therefore, speakers, in order to favor a political party, procrastinates and delays unnecessarily on such matters. And then, speaker is an individual person, while he has to also discharge a number of quasi-judicial responsibilities. For that purpose, we may have to create a committee of members of Lok Sabha to support him, and that committee may be composed in such a manner that it should be bipartisan in nature. That is, members from both opposition and ruling sides could be there in that committee to support him in discharging such kind of responsibilities. So that will also evoke confidence in the opposition and among the people. Reforming business rules. Now, many rules of the business of Lok Sabha need to be reformed to make things less hazy, less ambiguous. As of now, rules give a lot of arbitrary power to the speaker. There is a lot of ambiguity there, and therefore interpretation of the speaker is often not beyond question, right? So we may have to bring about reforms in the list of rules of business of the House. And last but most importantly, in UK, the office of the speaker has been completely independent. We can also reconstitute our office of the speaker on the same lines. Now, what principle does UK follow? UK follows this principle. Once a speaker, always a speaker principle. Means, suppose Om Birla, he was elected speaker in the last Lok Sabha. Now, what happens in UK that the outgoing speaker, you know, he also contests elections, general elections, to become a member of the next house, but the opposition parties or no political party fields candidates against him in that constituency. So he is elected uncontested, okay, without any opposition. Once he becomes member of the new Lok Sabha, new popular house, then he is given a choice, first choice, that whether he wants to become speaker again. If yes, then he will be elected unanimously. Okay, opposition will not raise any kind of opposition to him. Okay, so he will be allowed to continue as speaker as long as he wishes and as long as he continues to be the member of the house. But here in India, we have no such things. Om Birla, he contested elections once again for the Lok Sabha, but he had to contest elections. Opposition parties had also fielded candidates. Once he became member of the House, elections had to be conducted to elect a new speaker. So we can also follow this kind of system. How does this principle operate? I already mentioned. And in case election becomes inevitable, as in the case, as I said, that in 3 instances earlier, elections became unavoidable, inevitable. In that case, elections for the speaker, if happens, then it should be based on secret ballot. Okay, that anybody can vote in favor of a particular name irrespective of their affiliation to a specific political party. Means Congress MPs may also vote for a candidate if they like it, fielded by the BJP MPs may, so there could be cross voting also, but that can happen only when there is secret ballot system, right? Otherwise we can follow the UK system. Okay, guys, I have tried to discuss different aspects relating to the office of the speaker, but then discussion is not yet complete because we are yet to discuss the post of deputy speaker. Okay, only when we complete our discussion on deputy speaker, then this entire discussion will be complete. So that we will continue in our next session, in our next video. So, but before we wind up for this session, you please take up this. Which article of the Indian Constitution provides for the position of the speaker and deputy speaker? We already discussed during our discussion in this session. You please revisit if you don't remember and try answer this question. And you can also mention the right answer in your comment, right? So thank you guys. Okay, take care.